Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Gloves Off After Dark for 2026. Joining me today is my co host, Joshua T. Berglan, the world's mayor.
Right.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
In the spirit of gloves off, I'm surrounded by candles and very little light, just trying to get in the after dark mood.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. So, okay,
And I've been watching a lot of vampire movies. I think so. Like,
I should probably do the same thing. I think you know what? We're going to do that next time. We're going to be in sync and we're going to put on some candles and do it. I love it. I love it.
I'm trying to use minimum technology. I've created a Faraday cage around me to try to help with the frequencies, and so I'm going to some serious extremes. I have more stuff coming tomorrow, and and then
Okay.
eventually I'm going to make a custom suit that's a Faraday cage so I can go in public without pain. So, yeah, I'm going to some really crazy places, and I
Okay.
was inspired by vampire movies. Go figure.
Okay. Well, this sounds like a gloves off after dark conversation that we have to have another time.
Are we
But
talking about chemistry?
oh,
Vampires and chemistry kind of go hand in hand, but
true, true. Yes, they do. They do. and
I
that's
think
today's and that's today's topic, chemistry and the illusion of connection. So, Josh and I love having these conversations because you know what? We love having conversations that we haven't even figured out yet. We're like, we want to talk about it, so it helps us figure it out. So
yes,
we love combining our personal experiences in life. And obviously, I'm a woman, he's a man. So we've got different experiences and different lifestyles and whatnot. So we try to put our collective experiences together to bring to you, the audience, our interpretation of what chemistry is all about. So, but
right. We're
we're
not. Wait, you are a doctor. Never mind. You.
Yes, but
Uh,
we are not pretending to have this whole thing figured out.
no.
We are in the process of figuring it out, and we're hoping that this inspires some great conversation, some great comments from you, the members of the audience out there. So, thank you for continuing to watch out there. I love doing this show. We have been, I have actually taken a little hiatus off of Gloves Off. This is my first one in the new year because I had some life things happen, some flooding, which resulted in a unexpected move, which turned out great at the end of the day. I'm actually going to be talking about that next week on Gloves Off Insider Secrets. So tune into that if you want to hear the whole story. But that's just a little aside of what's been going on. But I'm excited because I love doing Gloves Off After Dark with
Mhm.
Josh. So this is a fun way to get back into it. So let's start talking about chemistry. So I'm going to ask you, Josh, what has been your experience when you have met somebody and there's been a large amount of chemistry? I know, and it always doesn't ever turn out exactly the same, but are you able to say in a nutshell what that experience generally turns out, how that turns out?
Okay, I really didn't know what you were about to ask me, and so I can now. I'm just immediately going back to this vampire show I watched. Actually, it was a series. I don't even remember the name of it. It was something like it was a show. It was on AMC, and it was about a witch family. Anyway, long story short, there was this arranged marriage scene of these two they were kind of like vampires. Anyway, there was this image of they just had this insane pull towards each other, and it was like a force of nature, literally, and they had like five people holding them back. I wish I could remember the name of the show.
Wow, that's
Mayfair.
pretty strong
Mayfair.
chemistry.
Witches of Mayfair, I think is what it's called. And
Oh,
there's a scene, and both of them, the bride and groom, were just like they just couldn't resist each other, and they had like five people holding them back with ropes and waiting until they were married, and then letting them make their vampire babies. Anyway, that image is in my head when you ask that question, because for me, that attraction, it feels like that type of force. It becomes like nothing around. I can't see anything around me. It's just this insane hyper focus and this very strong, overwhelming pull. Is that lust? Is that love? And that is something for me that took years to try to figure out. And then when I figured out it was so much of it was lust and so much of it was I have a lot of testosterone and I've got a high sex drive, and that drive made me stupid. So I got into a lot of bad relationships because of good sex. I made a lot of bad decisions because of wanting sex, or that chemistry has made me stupid. It took
I love
years.
it. Chemistry
It
makes
took
people.
years to realize, not just because you have that pull doesn't mean that you should drop your pants and, you know, it doesn't mean that you should have, it does not mean that you should be having intimate relations with that person. And that gets into a soul tie, conversation. It can get some pretty deep and spiritual, but for me, it's always been overwhelming because I have this insane drive, and it took so many consequences for me to finally go, maybe there's a better way.
Well, that's really interesting. So I've been on the opposite end of that, because, as a woman, you get, definitely a lot of men that have high sex drives and they
Yeah,
they get stupid and they cannot see straight. And,
it's
it's
true.
funny because you can get pulled into that very easily as a woman. And I have learned to just pull the reins back, because most of the time, if you just slow things down, that man with this high sex drive, this high amount of chemistry, lust, whatever you want to call it, a lot of times they get their bearings back and they're able to think straight, see straight. So again, that's just been my experience because, go ahead.
There's a conquering. Gosh, I can't even believe I'm going to say any of this stuff. I'm not, because I mean, I've been single and abstinent for a long time now, but it's well, and I was even longer until I had a brief dating thing that lasted a little bit. That said, it was really, really interesting how many times as soon as I ejaculated, I was like, oh shit, what did I do?
So
Because
it's almost like
I would have not have slept with that person under a normal condition, but the lust or the drive, or maybe it was an instinct to, whether I realized it or not, to conquer, to win, to
Oh, I think that
whatever.
that definitely exists in men. That definitely exists in men, and I can tell the difference
You
when.
can. Well,
I
let's talk about that, because that's something for me I've learned, and I mean age helps too. Age, maturity, and consequences help me learn a lot of lessons and learn how much more I would rather have love in the equation. And I mean, I have a completely different mindset than I did before, but you know, I'm still a guy with a high sex drive. But that said, there's a lot of people out there, like players, guys that are just looking to hook up, and they'll love bomb you. They're going to do what it takes to be able to get in your panties or get your panties off, or and I'm not trying to be crude. I'm just saying, like, there's when a guy wants that's all he can really think about. It becomes very, very preoccupied by it. This is why masturbation becomes an issue. This is why porn becomes an issue. This is why men cheat. All that stuff is factored in. But from a woman's perspective, you just said that you can tell the difference.
Mhm.
Coach men up here. Like, talk to them about the consequences, talk to them about the damage that does, talk about the how it can break trust. Really, I don't even know. Share from your perspective.
So I can definitely tell when a man is very big on conquering. You can feel that energy. He wants to just conquer. It could be me, it could be anybody else. It doesn't matter. They visually see something they like, that they're very attracted to. So then they just hone in on it, and they can. I could tell they. I want to say, for lack of a better word, they lose their shit. I mean, you could tell that they cannot think straight. They cannot think about anything other than the conquest. And I can tell when they're going down that road. I actually had this encounter very recently. And this guy that I just met, and he likes certain features on a woman, which I have, and he could not see straight. I mean, and he couldn't think straight. And he was just, wanted to invite me over to watch a movie. I'm like, no, we can meet in a public place again. And he wasn't into that. And as soon as I said no to that, he just was like, okay, too bad. And I'm like, all right, no problem. I mean, I don't care. I know what, and that's fine if that was what I was wanting, but that wasn't what I was wanting. And
Right.
frankly, that kind of exchange at this point in my life with somebody I barely know, who barely cares to know me other than something they visually see that's attractive to them, is not interesting anymore. It just isn't. It used to feel good, I think, in my younger years when I needed more validation, external validation. So there's that. Because sex for women, sometimes they really use it as a form of their own attractiveness, their own external validation. They need that. So, you okay?
Yeah, yeah,
So
okay.
now, because I don't need that, I actually don't even find that sexy at all when a man starts to act that way. I used to. I used to. Years ago, I actually found that very exciting, but I no longer find that exciting. So that's a shift in me. And then, I went out with this, I mean, I dated quite a lot, so I went out with this other guy and we had great conversation. He never pushed anything. Yes, he found me attractive. I found him attractive, but we just had good conversation. And the interesting thing was, he said, I'm not in a rush. That's when I started digging around doing some research. And I thought, wow, I actually feel I mean, it's only was one date, so I don't know yet, and we're going out again. But what I'm saying is, I felt that there was some sort of, again, he could have lied, but I could tell that it was genuine. And I'd like to take you out again. Now that stuck out in my mind. Do you need to take a break or you?
No, good.
Okay. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, then it got me thinking that sometimes chemistry creates an illusion of connection. It's just pure sexual, hormonal, whatever, lust. I really do believe that. I think I've experienced that enough times to know that there isn't anything else there after. Like you said, I think women also realize after, like, I don't know. Sometimes it takes two or three times though, and you're like, I don't know, like, oh, I'm not so interested anymore. And I think the reason for that, and I was just speaking from my perspective because it has happened to me quite a bit, where I'm like, well, why am I not interested anymore? That's because there was no substance. There was just no substance. So what I prefer is now nervous system safety. Yeah, that's the word I think is very sexy and hot now, because if somebody makes you feel safe, well, think about it. If you're not feeling safe with somebody, yeah, you could probably have great sex a few times, no doubt. But if you actually feel safe, that leads to greater bonding. Doesn't have to be forever. I'm not talking marriage, soulmate. I'm not talking about any of that. But I'm just talking about from a strictly physical perspective. It could be nice. It could be more enjoyable. There could be more exploration. There could be more trust. And all of that really creates a way better sexual experience than chemistry alone. That's
Yeah.
my theory.
Well, I agree. For me, it's really is about love, which is a completely love and monogamy now, where that was never what I wanted before. I would sometimes say that because that's what I thought I needed to do,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
could, because that's not how I was wired. And it really didn't even apply to the any part of my life. Monogamy did not fit at all. It just didn't. It wasn't practical. It didn't make sense in my brain, even though I would wrestle with it all the time. But again, I'm not gay, but I'm not straight either. And so that was a hard thing for me to learn how to manage. Plus just accepting myself, knowing what was real. Was it the drugs? Was it real? Was it part of me? Like there was so much. So there was all of this internal chaos. And so for me, when I was looking for partners, it was people that were going to be a little bit crazy and, wanting to
Right?
go. I mean, and again, because drugs and alcohol and substances were a big part of my life for so long. And now that it's not, it took years to finally kind of unwind from that hypersexuality to, maybe I want a family and maybe I want to love and maybe I want to love somebody and never share them.
Mhm.
I'm not I'll never be the jealous type, but
Mhm.
at the same time, to share that bond. And I'll give you an example because when I got sober, well, I mean, I use cannabis. That's my medicine. But sober otherwise, not drinking, doing drugs.
Right.
I, I was abstinent for a long time. And then I was like, okay, well, no, this is still who I am. Okay. And then I met somebody that I loved and still do love in every way that I know how to love. And that love has actually grown since we've been apart more because of our relationship has continued as friends and family, essentially. But we had like this person accepted me for me in every form in every way. And I saw what sharing did to that relationship.
Mm. Hmm.
And I watched the connection that was once there start to erode.
Mm.
Because I was able to feel that, it was like the vortex of this beautiful connection, partnership, team, everything, love, safety, trust. And then all of a sudden, it's like the little crevice, the crack in the
Mm.
foundation happened. And then little by little, again, still very solid relationship, but the thing that my heart, and it took so long to fully recognize this, but the thing that my heart really was wanting and craving was that intimate, loving connection. And the minute another person enters that connection's no longer the same.
Mm.
It's that awakening. It didn't mean that my sexual taste or desires changed at all. It just meant what I knew was right for my life and how I wanted to live my life was much different than I had lived it the 30 something years before. It dramatically changed. So for me, and I brought this up in one of our last episodes. I have a really good friend who had told me about this research that had been done. They're saying you shouldn't even hold hands for 6 months.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You.
And which is like, that's still a mind blowing thing. But the more I look at that, the more it makes sense to me because you don't really know someone. It takes seasons to know people. It takes watching them have family members die. It takes them getting in a car wreck. It takes them getting fired or gets them sick. Like you need to see people backed into a corner. You need to see them, all sides of them, before you make this decision of, oh, I want to hitch my wagon to you, or I want to do life with you, or frankly, I want to swap DNA with you. I mean, and again, if you there's tons of really amazing research that gets into how there's a DNA exchange when
Mhm.
you have sex, but then from a metaphysical, spiritual sense, there's soul ties. And
Yeah.
I mean, people can try to argue about this being a thing, but you're never going to win, like, because it's a real thing. And
Mhm.
it shows up in some of the most interesting ways too. If you think there's no such thing as soul ties, I mean, I that those people show up in your life in a lot of different ways, and I'm telling you, and again, I would go down a weird path with this, so I'm going to stop myself.
Yeah.
But it's worth looking at because it's that understanding of soul ties and the DNA exchange that made me start going, maybe I should not put my penis there.
I think that that is a great point. And honestly, maybe we're going to have to deep dive into a conversation about that because I find that also very fascinating. And I don't disagree with you. I think that there are certain connections that feel more like soul ties. They don't have to be physical relationships. They could be friendships. They could be all kinds of different things. I mean, frankly, I think you and I have a soul tie. You haven't even met in person. And yet I can talk more easily to you than most people I know. So that's, I don't know. That's strange, but true.
Have you heard of the red string theory?
No.
I just had someone the same person that told me about the 6 month thing
Okay.
told me about the red string theory. And it's a lot of people tie it to Kabbalah, and it's bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. It's actually, people wear the red string for the symbolism, but it's not always the same thing. The red string theory is essentially like a soul tie, spiritual soul, like we're soul brother, soul sister, we're
Mhm.
soul partners, whatever. There's a soul connection. We're what's the word? It's when you call, not spirit animal. What's it called when you like a twin flame?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Or a
They're
soulmate, or
soulmates, but a
yeah,
soulmate doesn't necessarily mean that you're
yeah.
getting married.
No,
But there's
no,
there's something to that. There's a spiritual string, and
yeah.
if you understand the way technology works, and television, in television programming. That ties into doing face-to-face conversations on a Google Meet. You can
Yeah.
develop a spiritual tie like this very
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
So it's very
No,
real.
I agree.
And your
I agree.
brain sometimes doesn't know the difference between, in fact, I've actually read a study, I didn't read the whole study, but I read some of the study that talked about how essentially our online life is more real in our brains than when we actually go outside and experience life. Have you heard about that?
No, that's really interesting. But
Yeah.
I actually want to go back to something you said about monogamy because I want to offer a different perspective, only because our life experiences are so different. So I want to chime in that.
Please.
So you have not really been monogamous for a very long period of time.
No.
So because of that, so the reason I say this is I think often we crave what we didn't have. So you
So,
so I'm just going to say that you lived a crazy life full of
very.
lots of sex and drugs and all rock and roll and all the things. Now, in contrast, and this is why I think that our dynamic is so fun, I was literally with my husband at 21 years old and got married at 24 and was with him for 27 years till 48 when I got divorced. So I came out of 27 years of monogamy. So I have different viewpoints on that. I do think that for women, society kind of steers us into monogamy as a form of acceptance, worthiness, like a virtue. I don't know. I feel like I never knew there was a choice not to be honest with you. I was 21. There was a whole different time at that point. But I think for me, I've just consciously decided that I'm going to choose for myself. I haven't decided what that is, but I'm just saying I want to consciously choose for myself because now I know that there are options. I would say that overall, society, men being non monogamous is much more acceptable than a woman being non monogamous. I think even to this day, there is there's definitely some judgment and predisposition around that. That's just my feeling, but I could be right, I could be wrong. This is what I've experienced. So that being said, coming out of 27 years of monogamy, the last thing I wanted was monogamy. But then on the flip side, I kind of wanted monogamy too, because that was where things were comfortable. And now I would say that I really did like that. Like what you were saying before with when you brought somebody else into the equation, how it started to crack. I do believe that happens. I know couples who are swingers and, have all kinds of different, and I'm not a judgmental person. I just am curious and I listen. And I would say that I have seen their relationship change over time. From an outsider's perspective, I don't know whether they see it or not, but I've seen it change over time. So I don't know if that works long term. I would say that I love monogamy in theory, but for me now, I don't think I would just go into I just don't want to be in a relationship unless it's all the things that I want.
Yeah.
And I believe that if it was all the things that I want, I would definitely love to have a monogamous relationship. I guess that's what I know at this moment in time.
Yeah.
But for the women out there, I don't think that we owe it to anybody or society to decide that that's what we want because that's what's acceptable. If it's not your thing, you should decide consciously for yourself what that is.
I mean, culturally, you go back, I think the script has been flipped a lot. Like, for instance, I believe that women were the original powers. And that's
Mhm,
now going back to we're going back to a women-led world. But I think our
mhm,
origins, like I believe the Lilith story,
mhm.
Lilith, and that's getting off into another crazy fun
Another
subject.
tangent. We're keeping you
Um,
on the tangents today.
I have all of these rants built in because I host my own show and I
Yeah, yeah.
go down these things.
We should go
But we
down
will
these
get
rabbit
distracted.
holes.
But there's cultures around the world and throughout history where like this, I don't, again, not trying to be crude, but women would receive multiple men at the same time because it was believed that that would make a stronger baby. And because
Mm,
it took a village, women, I mean, I don't know how women would even feel about this now, but it was a sense of pride for a woman to be with multiple men and to have babies. And it was like it was everyone's kids in the village. I don't know if
mhm.
that's right. I don't know what the right way to do things is. That would be kind of weird, but
I think
So I
so.
mean, I don't know, and of course with religion and different beliefs, like things have changed. Um, the more it's so interesting too, because the more I learn about other religions, including the religion I grew up in, I gotta think that it feels like to me that religion has been weaponized against women specifically more than anyone else.
I think
And
so.
it's
I would
so,
agree.
and I know that the whole monogamy in marriage and a woman's role, that's all factored into this and this conditioning that we've believed. And so that now I think that's why it's so disruptive, because people are breaking out of that programming and going, wait a second, this isn't right. Or even if it was right, let's say that the religious rules were right. Let's just say they were.
Hmm.
Then and if that was really supposed to be a woman's role, well, then men effed up big time, because they created a space for those conditions not to exist in a healthy way. It's turned into slavery. It's turned into abuse. It's turned into control. It's turned into prisons. It's turned into having the life sucked out of women, the purpose sucked out of women. Women are like, there's beliefs. I've seen male preachers on social media, so
Hmm.
like telling women that they should not be speaking at the church. They should not be preachers. They should not do this. They should not do that. Like a man owns a woman's body. And like, whether they're speaking metaphorically or not, the fact is all of that language and that the way that these things are being said are very abusive. And I would never want, my daughters or anyone I knew growing up in an environment like that, because it's oppressive.
Hmm.
But again, I'm not the creator. I don't know what's really right or not. I just know that controlling anyone is
Is not
never going to get the best out of them. And I don't believe that our creator wants us to be under the control or under the thumb of anyone,
right. I mean, at the end of the
especially an
day,
abusive zealot.
oh, 100%. And at the end of the day, I mean, I've had this conversation with some of my married friends because they're like, well, there's this ownership sort of in a marriage that most people have. And, I'll admit, when I was married, I think I felt the same way. It was after I got divorced that I started thinking about this more. And I realized that, when I'm in another relationship, I don't want there to be that ownership. That component of it, nobody owns anybody. And, if somebody decides to, you can't control another human being. I don't care how hard you try, you just can't. If that person wants to cheat or be with somebody else, guess what? They're going to find a way to do it. So you just have to know that it's never about ownership. All you have to do at that point is decide what's right for you, whether you stay in that relationship or not, and do what's right for you. But when I talk to married people about this and they say that you don't own your husband and he shouldn't own you, and they're like, well, and I'm like, no, you don't own that human being. I mean, they're your husband, you love them, but that's not how this works. And I think it's a real difficult concept for most people to wrap their heads around. So, but again, there's things can get very convoluted, from connection to chemistry to ownership. I mean, I feel that so much gets confused these days. And, we have to kind of break down all the noise and look at what really is important. And what I think is important, and it may not be what everybody else thinks is important, is that two people come together from a place of sovereignty, not from a place of woundedness
Mm.
or, needing each other, but come together because they're both sovereign on their own and they both care for each other, love for each other, have love for each other, want to see the best things happen for each other, and want to support those things for each other. And then from there, you build a life if that's what you want. And whatever happens in between, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of cheating. But
No.
if two people decide that some other arrangement other than monogamy is not working for, is works for them, that's their prerogative. I don't ever, I'm not judgmental about that. But I don't like cheating. I mean, if you have a different arrangement in mind, talk to your person about it and agree on it.
Anything that's deceitful is rooted in a darkness, and you're bringing
Right.
that into the relationship. So you're going to toxify the relationship. Truth is light.
Right.
And by being honest, you give people an opportunity to make the right choice for themselves. But if I'm telling you, oh, you're the only thing that matters to me, and I only want to be with you, and I love you, and it's okay that you, I mean, whatever, like all the things that are said. And then behind your back, I'm on the apps and I'm hunting for sex or, whatever. And there, I could go into so many stories because, well, I mean, read my book, The Devil Inside Me. I got all the stories there.
I
There's a
read it.
lot, and
I read
I'm not
it.
proud of any of it. I'm
I
not
read
proud
it when
of
I,
any of that.
sorry, I was going
This,
to say I
huh?
read it when I first met you because I wanted a crash course on Josh. So I read the book and I was like, okay, now I got it.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And believe it or not, since I turned my life around, it's actually been crazier than that life, but in a more of a better way. Like I guess better. Um, it is better. It is a better life. It's just been crazier. But I wouldn't. I mean, I'll never forget the. I had a person that I was with for several years. She's actually in my book. I'll never forget the day because she was like ride or die for anything. Like all my crazy ideas on drugs, you're like, okay, let's do it. And it was like a dream for me at that time. Again, it was a nightmare, really. But it was in my mind, it was like, this is a fantasy, and I get to live in this fantasy, and I get to do all these crazy things with drugs and my girlfriend and all of these other people. Well, the problem was I had this rope that was really long, and when I would travel, and I would take doctors out and I would take other people out. Next thing I knew, I'm doing cocaine and then I'm going and then I'm cheating like crazy. I'll never forget the day that she found out that I was sneaking around, even with all the things I was able to do with her. When I was
Right.
on vacation, the minute I did cocaine or meth, it was like I couldn't stop. And that betrayal and that fractured trust,
Mm,
watching her whole aura and everything change right in front of my eyes.
mm,
I'll never get the visual out of my face of how much damage I did to a human being. And the PTSD that happened from that lie in that moment, even though we stayed together for a few more years, every time there was drinking, her PTS trigger would kick in and we would
mhm,
fight. Like we never fought until then because the lack of trust.
mhm.
And it's the lot of all the evil things that I've done in my life. Lying to people is by far the worst because of what that does to a woman's I mean, even family and friends. Lying's bad, but when you have an intimate partner and you break their trust, the damage that does doesn't just go away with forgiveness. It's lingering. And then the damage that you've done to that person with your lies doesn't just stay with the person you lied to, it affects everybody in their orbit, their next relationship, their kids, their family. It's a very destructive ripple effect that's creating from a lie, a very selfish lie. It's so much easier to be honest, even if you've got some freak in you and you want to do this, just be honest about it. Because I
Totally.
promise you, men out there, I've said this before on the show, I'm pretty sure of it, and I've had a lot of women support it. You can call me crazy and you can call me whatever you want, ladies, but tell me if I'm wrong. If a woman feels safe and if a woman's love tank is full, she's probably going to do that dirty thing that you're wanting to do. I mean, within reason. But
Within reason. Maybe
the
not everything, but definitely more
right,
so than
yeah,
trying to get a woman in bed after like a cup of coffee. Nothing exciting is going to happen after that. It's going to be
no.
boring, and it's not even worth it. But
But
you're
there's okay.
absolutely
I'm going to be specific, just so I can be clear, because I don't want people's imaginations. I know a lot of men that like to have their anus played with, okay, and during oral sex or something like that. And I've heard multiple men talk about it, and you can watch forums, but they're afraid to tell their partner. That's such a minor example, right? But if you really want that, why in the world would you go to a hooker to get that? Why would you go cheat and wreck your family? Wouldn't it be easier to
because
just
people have.
say,
I think it's because people have a hard time owning the truth. in general. They have a hard time owning the truth. Because they're used to
Miserable
being
life.
conditioned about lying or making it sound pretty or making it sound palatable. I always have this saying. I say, I prefer the ugly truth to pretty lies. That's just what I've always said. And it's just my motto. I will also tell the ugly truth as opposed to a pretty lie. I mean, I do it in a nice way because I'm not doing it to harm the person, but I'm doing it to tell the truth. And I think that if more of us lived life in that way, that the truth is kind of the only option because it's hard to lie. I don't even want to remember all the damn lies. I can't remember all of them. Don't want to remember them. Don't even want to lie anymore. I'm just too damn old, too damn set in my ways. And I'm just like, either you like me because I tell the truth or you don't like me. I just don't give a damn anymore. So that's me now. I mean, but in my younger years, I was not saying the truth to be palatable. So what I'm saying is, I know I'm giving a minor example, but I think it really translates. You know what they say, how you do something is how you do everything. Well, when I catch people in lies, so I have this friend, she's no longer my friend, but I've caught her in a few minor lies and silly lies. Like, for example, when I was starting to work out, she's like, God, you look really fit. And I told her I've been working out with this personal trainer. She's like, oh, give me his number. Then she says, oh, I texted him. He's like, she didn't text me. Look at my phone. Like, why would she lie about that? Okay, a few more months go by. She starts lying about other little things. So what I'm saying is, how you do something is how you do everything. If you're going to lie about those little things, I don't know what else you will lie about, because that is so menial and so silly, and you're going to lie about that. That really just, I think that when you make the truth the way that you are, people, number one, know that they can trust what you say. I think when people come to me and ask me a question, they know they can trust what comes out of my mouth, because it's always going to be the truth.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, I know it's more common now women for to speak up about their abuse, but I wish men would talk about their abuse more too.
I agree.
And it's not about bathing in your pain and trauma, but keeping that stuff secret is awful. Keeping
Keeping
the
any
secrets of
secret
your
is awful.
abusers is what?
Any secret is awful. It kind of eats
Yes.
at you from the inside.
Sexual trauma, keeping sexual trauma is attached to a level of shame. I mean, because sexual shame is probably worse than any shame there is. I think sexual shame is probably worse than the shame if you murdered someone. Maybe that's extreme, but it's pretty. I mean, even if you go into all the spiritual and religious books, sex is a big deal. Like, it's a big deal. It's not where now it's so cheap and easy because porn is everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't really value sex the same way as a society. But
Mhm.
the truth is, in the spiritual context, sex is a massive deal. It's a massive deal. I mean, it creates life. It creates life, for instance. I mean, that's how powerful it is. But there's so much shame attached to it. And I know so many men that are suffering in silence. And this is why I brought up the anal play thing. A lot of that comes from being molested or curiosity. But the fact is, there's shame and they have this desire and they don't know why. And that desire, because they try to stuff it down and they don't share it with the person that's closest to them, they do things like cheat, or they get on apps and they go do things that they normally wouldn't do, but they want that one thing so bad, they're willing to sabotage all of this goodness to scratch that itch, so to speak. And guess what? That itch just gets bigger every time you do it. And then you need more, and then you need more, and you need more. And once you cheat one time, it's almost impossible not to cheat a second time. And if you cheat the second time, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and it becomes a problem. And I'm not projecting my own issues on people. Check out the data. It supports what I just said. Yes, I know it from experience, but I also, the data supports that. It's just
It
like you
makes
tell a lie.
sense.
The minute you say it's over, I'm never talking to you again, blah, 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 blah. You say it once in a relationship, but then you get back together. Guess what happens? You're going to end up saying it again. And
Hmm.
that becomes a
Oh, yeah.
habit where you hang up on someone. You hang up one time, you're going to hang up a second, a third, and a fourth.
It's so true. That is so true. Wow. I mean, it's amazing, but yeah, it is very, very true. So I think, just maybe to sort of start wrapping things up here, as far as what we've learned. I know the time goes by so fast.
Yep.
We could do this. Next thing you know, you and I are on a 3-hour podcast, if you
My
realize.
broadcasts are exhausting. Like, the ones I do, like this is way more fun. I wish I could do this format more often.
That's because it's me.
That's probably what it is. Mine are, gosh, I need a nap. Like I need a nap after mine. I feel energized now.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's like it goes really fast. We just get into great conversations. So I think I'm going to try to summarize this the best I can because we did go down a couple of little tangents, but I felt they were all very relevant. Listen, folks, I kept Josh from talking about vampires, talking about soul ties. I'm getting good at pulling in the reins. but, but I feel that what we've discovered today what we have discovered today, other than vampires, no, but what we've discovered is that chemistry can be very misleading. I do believe that there needs to be a certain level of chemistry for a relationship to work,
Yeah.
or it's kind of dull and boring. I mean, so there has to be. So, this just came to me. I don't think it's chemistry or lack thereof. I don't think it's a binary equation. I think that maybe equates to the level of chemistry. I think if I have to look back at my past experiences, if the chemistry was a 10, I think at this point I'm going to stay away from that guy because there's probably some not great reason why that chemistry is a 10. I think, and I don't want it to be zero either, 0 or 1 either, because that's going to be kind of boring. So I would say maybe my happy space would be between 4 and 7, and with a component of nervous system safety and somebody that I actually like talking to. I don't know. That's the equation I just came up with right now.
I don't like that.
No?
No, I think you can still have chemistry, but your chemistry is rooted in things of having our like for instance, I would never ever even consider dating someone who didn't have alignment with where I'm going with my life.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like that, I'm not going to carry anybody.
No.
We have to be traveling the same direction, so to speak,
Mhm.
and they have to be just as ambitious and have just as big of goals. That's a number one, but also a heart for service, a heart for the underserved, the heart for. I mean, again, I'm not going to go into my dating profile. I don't have a dating profile, but what I'm looking for, I'm not going into that because I'm not looking.
Hey,
But
any of you single ladies, listen, he's telling it right now.
I'm not looking. I'm
I'm
not.
joking.
Don't. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not. Because I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm finishing my race. I'm gonna heal these trimmers, and I'm gonna do like I'm focused on what I'm doing, and nothing's
Oh,
getting
that's
in my way.
amazing.
But chemistry wise, friendships, bond, intellectually stimulating. Like I can be being intellectually stimulated is the best chemistry builder upper ever. Because
I
then you remove, if you take the sex, even the sex talk and the flirting out of the equation and you focus on the fundamentals, so to speak, there's
Mhm.
tons of chemistry in the fundamentals, whether you share a love for art or philosophy and you share different quotes back and forth or different ideologies and you have these conversations that builds chemistry, that builds trust. So you can have 10 out of a 10. And yes, you can absolutely be attracted to that person at an insane level and still keep it in your pants and let the
So
relationship nurture.
I, I would agree with you. So maybe I should reframe what I said. When I was talking about chemistry, I was really more talking about sexual chemistry. So I think that let's put everything that we just said together. Let's go for 10 out of 10 intellectual chemistry or emotional chemistry. The sexual chemistry, sometimes I have had situations where it was less, but got to be much more after getting to know that person.
That part.
So maybe a better equation would be very high on the emotional intellectual chemistry. If the physical chemistry is a little lower, it's okay because sometimes I find that that's the one that can become more so after some time, after getting to know somebody more intellectually, emotionally, and probably a lot healthier that progression.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like that works. And then throw in nervous system safety, which probably naturally comes in because you're getting to know that person from an intellectual and emotional standpoint before a physical standpoint. All right, people, I think we solved it. I'm like,
Now time to
oh,
write the book.
yeah, no, I'm patting myself on the back. I'm like, okay, I think we might have come up. I think this is a good start. Maybe there's more, there's probably more to it, but I feel that this is a good start.
It's a good start.
Now I'm going to go put that into practice and let you know.
Yeah, let's follow up on this in your next date.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to follow up on it and let you know how it goes and see if this is a true equation. Well, gosh, yeah, time goes by super fast on this, but oh my God, I'm so glad to get back into this. I really, it goes to show you in life when you're removed from doing something because other life circumstances get in the way. It really makes you realize the things that you really love. I could not wait to do this today. I was like so excited. And honestly, I didn't even have proper internet till about, I don't know, an hour ago.
Oh,
So I
really?
was like, yeah, because they just moved last week and they had to put in some sort of new internet cable or whatever. And that literally got done about an hour ago. So I was like, yes, I can do my podcast. So anyway, it's always a pleasure, Josh. And
Always.
we'll be resuming, guys, next. So I think this one was a little late because this is February 1st already, but I'm going to try to get back on track. But I wanted to do this as the inaugural Gloves Off After Dark for 2026. So anyway, if you have followed the show, I'm going to just shameless plug, obviously subscribe, and that way you'll hear all the new episodes for Gloves Off After Dark, and all the things that we're doing. And other than that, I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your day. Thanks again, Josh, and I'll see you next month.
See you soon.
Bye.